Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you are staying warm and cozy inside. We have a very important lesson for today. Very important name of God, Elohim Kadoshim, the Holy God. God's holiness is one of the most fundamental aspects of his character throughout the Bible. Something that we're told over and over and over again is that our God is a holy God. What does that mean? Well, to find out, we're going to start in one of my favorite passages of the Bible, Isaiah chapter 6, where Isaiah gets a glimpse of the Holy God. In the year of King Uzziah's death, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, lofty and exalted, with the train of his robe filling the temple. Seraphim were standing above him, each having 6 wings. With 2, each covered his face, and with 2, each covered his feet, and with 2, each flew. And one called out to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of armies. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the foundations of the threshold trembled at the voice of him who called out, while the temple was filling with smoke. Then I said, Woe to me, for I am ruined, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of armies. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a burning coal in his hand, which he had taken from the altar with tongs. He touched my mouth with it and said, Behold, this has touched your lips, and your guilt is taken away, and atonement is made for your sin. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, Here am I, send me. Holy literally means set apart. It means different. It means special. We're set apart from everything else. First, set apart from sin. Holiness means absolutely perfect, beside sin, far away from sin. Sin's over here, holiness is way over here, set apart from sin. But then also set apart from normal. Holy means special. Holy means out of the ordinary. You and I are normal, ordinary folks, but God is special. He is one of a kind. He is unique. That is what makes him holy. An old children's prayer summarized holiness like this: God is great, God is good, let us thank him for this food. So we're going to look at 2 aspects of holiness today: God's greatness, where he's set apart from everyone who's not great, and God's goodness, where he's set apart from everyone who is not perfectly good. Number 1, God is great. We hear that when King Uzziah died in that year, God's throne was high and lifted up. God's throne is in the temple way up high. God's throne is higher than any earthly throne, including King Uzziah's, including King David's, including American presidents and political leaders. God's throne is way above all the rest of them. God is King of kings, Lord of lords. Kings bow down before him. Nobody even comes close to comparing to him. Recently we had President Jimmy Carter die, and when he died, there were several other American presidents who went to the funeral, and you could see several American presidents sitting down, paying their respects to a former American president. And you can go, oh, look, here are 4 U.S. presidents. They're not set apart. They're important, but there's been 45 U.S. presidents, 46. There's been a lot of U.S. presidents, and there's only been one God. King Uzziah died in the year that Isaiah is talking about, but King Jesus is alive. Uzziah's throne fell down because he died. God's throne is raised high and lifted up. God is great in his holiness. The seraphs or seraphim are barely mentioned in the Bible. I think it's three, maybe 4 passages that they're talked about just very sparsely. They are apparently a type of angel or angelic being. The name seraph means fiery one, which is pretty cool. They are powerful, great beings. They are so strong and mighty. It said, when the seraphs are singing to God, their song causes the earth to tremble. So the seraphs are great in might, and yet they are bowing down before God. the seraphs bow down and they sing God's praises. These great, powerful beings are saying God is much greater than even me. They're not even looking at God in the face. They will not look him in the eye. They're not worthy. They're bowing down, covering their eyes with their wings. I don't deserve to look at God. I'm going to be bowing down before him. If a being that great thinks that God is even greater than him, wow, God's holiness is great in might. Angels are called holy in the Bible on a couple of occasions, and they are holy in the sense of sinless. They are set apart from sin, but they're not nearly as great as God. They are created beings, and God is the creator. So don't get confused with the greatness and holiness of angels compared to the greatness and holiness of God. I'm trying to say in the front, God's way up here, right? God is set apart from all the created beings. Angels do not deserve our worship. There are some people who pray to angels. It's not as common anymore, but back in the Middle Ages, certainly, and in other parts of the world, people do still pray to angels today. But angels worship God as our fellow servants of God. There was a time when John, when he gets a vision of heaven in Revelation, he gets basically a tour of heaven with an angel as his tour guide. And at the end, he's so overwhelmed, he bows down in front of the angel. The angel says, "No, don't do that." Revelation 19:10, "No, don't worship me. I am a servant of God, just like you and your brothers and sisters who testify about their faith in Jesus. Worship only God." So compared to me, an angel is powerful and great. Compared to God, whew, God is miles above that. God is holy. He's set apart, even greater than the greatest thing you can imagine. So God is great in his holiness. God is good in his holiness. God is good all the time. And God's goodness is complete. I'm sure you know people who are good people. I hope you love your parents and your brothers and sisters and your friends. And you say, those are good people. That's not what we're talking about when we say God is good. Those people might be pretty good, but God's goodness is absolutely complete, perfect goodness each and every second of each and every day for all of eternity. In fact, God is not only good, he defines goodness. Like when you say, well, what's the difference between good and bad? The difference is good is what God's like and bad is what God's not like. God is the definition of goodness. Goodness is measured by how close the action is to God's character. Is this action something that God would do? Well, then it's good. Is it not what God would do? Well, then it's bad. This is cool. This is the kilogram. It is made of platinum. It is the kilogram that we measure all other kilograms to. We have the same thing for pounds and ounces and gallons and whatever unit of measurement you can think of, inches and yards and miles. We have a thing that we compare everything else to. If you ever wondered how people can get yardsticks all exactly 1 yard, well, there's one perfect yard and you compare your yardstick to the perfect yard. Here's one object that has the mass of 1 kilogram. This is an objective standard. We do not have to guess if something is a kilogram or not. We can compare it to this, and no guesswork involved. Just compare it. How close is it to 1 kilogram? What would happen if you and I had different ideas about what kilogram or foot or gallon or mile meant? That would cause absolute chaos. Imagine, as I have done very recently, imagine I go into Home Depot and I have a shopping list and I need 8 feet of 2x4. And so I go to the aisle that has 2x4s and I get what they call 8 feet 2x4. And yet it's really what I would call 3 feet of 1x2. I'm like, well, I thought 8 feet was this big. And Home Depot's like, no, 8 feet's this big. Well, if we call different sizes 1 foot, how could you build a house that way? You can't. You have to make sure every piece fits. What if you go, boys, you'll like this, what if you go to the store to buy a 2-liter of Mountain Dew, and their 2-liter of Mountain Dew is this much? They go, well, that's not 2 liters. I go, yeah, it is. That's 2 of our liters. That's 2 Myers liters. They go, well, I went to Aldi's and their 2 liters is this big. You need an objective measurement to measure things. You have to know what kilogram and pound and ounce means. Well, what about morally? What about right and wrong? If you and I disagree about what is right or wrong, how do we fix that? We don't have a block that weighs exactly one goodness that you can measure to, right? Well, we have to compare to God. Without God as our standard for good, we need to figure out some other way to decide if an action is good or bad. In America, we love voting on things, so let's just vote on goodness too. If the majority thinks it's good, then it must be good. Well, I'm sure you see how that can go real bad real fast. What if the majority of people want to do something really, really wicked? Slavery was legal. The majority of people in America thought it was a good idea. Doesn't mean it's a good idea. Voting on something does not make it right or wrong. God does. In many places and times in history, one strong person or group can force everyone else. Let's say, well, I have all the guns, so do what I say or I'll shoot you. I have all the power, I have the army, so I get to decide what's right and wrong in my kingdom. And if you don't like it, we're going to shoot you. I don't know how many times and places Christians have been thrown in jail or killed because the leader says, no, Christianity is wrong, so if you want to be a Christian, we're going to punish you. One strong person or group does not get to decide the difference between right and wrong. And of course, as is really common in America today, maybe we should just let everyone decide what's good for themselves. So I'll do what I think is good, and you do what you think is good, and we'll all live happily ever after, and we'll all just do what we think is good. That sounds real nice until you actually start living life that way. And what happens if I think it's a good idea to rob a bank, but you don't think it's a good idea for me to steal from you? Oh no, now there's conflict. Well, I think I should have your car, and you think I should not have your car. Well, how do we decide right and wrong? Well, we need an objective standard. We need a unit of measurement. Someone who can tell us something like either thou shalt steal or thou shalt not steal. And then we can point to that in the Bible and say, you see this? It says, do not steal. Stealing is wrong. Without that, we have the world that we live in today where everyone just does whatever they feel like doing. And there's no way that you could tell people if they're right or wrong. Well, guys, we're going to quit there. We have more talk on this topic tomorrow. I have some really fun projects to do to show you just how crazy it is when people don't have any standard of right and wrong, and everyone's going in different directions. I have a short homework for you. Please make sure you read the instructions. It will not take very long, but please do your best. Do not rush, just so you can get back to your Xbox, okay? Bye.